Hi, everybody. It's Lauren Ohayon from Restore Your Core. How are you? Today, we are talking about tremoring. So if you've spent time on my Instagram, you've probably seen that I made a bunch of videos showing my body in a state of tremor. So I want to talk about the relationship between tremoring and the nervous system, as well as give you a little guided practice about how to induce tremors and just give a little bit of what, why, how. So when we bring our body into a state of tremoring, it is completely involuntary. I want to start by saying that because some people reach out to me and they're like, oh, my hand tremors all the time. Is that the same thing? No. The tremoring that we are talking about in this video is brought on by bringing your body into a state of muscle fatigue, which brings on these involuntary tremors. Okay, so let's start with that. What's the deal with this practice? Why do we do it? What's so important about it? Animals in nature, when they have a very stressful event, you can call it traumatic or just stressful, will tremor as a way to offload the tension that is pent up from that moment of stress. Now, humans are not that different. When we experience stress, we go into a place of holding. It's very primal. And you may have heard the terms fight, flight, or flee. So our body goes into these states of running, hiding, tensing, curling, fighting when we are faced with challenge. Now, I have many clients who go into fight or flight when they are at a red light, right? So some people go into fight or flight for very minor things. And for some other people, they go into fight or flight when the risk is really deemed extremely high. I'm not here to necessarily judge what type of stress in your life is appropriate for fight or flight. But the point is, when you go into a stressful state, when you are reacting, when you go into activation, a mode of activation, you're at like a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then your muscles, your body is preparing and tension is pent up. And it's a great idea then to offload that tension. A lot of times people don't have a mechanism to offload that stress. They have created all sorts of coping mechanisms to handle the stress, but the stress does stay within your nervous system. And it becomes really important to nurture, to attend to the stress that your nervous system might be feeling, because your nervous system is what is running the show for health, for wellness, for dis-ease, for disease, right? Like our nervous system is it's the electrical panel that you're not seeing, but that you are feeling, that is responding to your life and your behaviors, your patterns and your actions. So this practice is amazing for it's really for anybody who feels like they would be served and their nervous system would be served by offloading some of that tension and pressure, especially if you feel like you haven't been given a voice to do that. You don't have a great outlet to do that. And especially if you are somebody who gets activated very easily. So if you startle easily, or you get angry easily, or you are very reactive, then it's a great idea to start doing a practice like this. It also gets you in touch with your body, right? A lot of us are incredibly disconnected from our bodies, no judgment there at all. We struggle to feel, we struggle to really understand the sensations. We struggle to kind of have a relationship with the sensations, the feelings in our body. So this is a really great practice to start to also just work your body into a certain state, be present with it, witness it, notice it, acknowledge it. So I am a really big fan of tremor practice, and I have found that with many of my clients, it does wonders to release underlying stress that is making their healing really hard. So they're doing all these other things. They're checking off. I ran a mile, I walked a mile. I ate all my protein. I did my mobility practice. I went to the therapist. All those things. They're checking everything off, but yet they're still in this state of pain, stress, tension. I find that this practice is wonderful for them. That being said, for people who've had serious trauma in their life, this can be overactivating. It can be way too much. So this is not medical advice or psychological advice that every single person needs this practice. You are making an educated, informed choice about whether to undertake this practice for yourself. I have many clients who feel that they do not need a guided practitioner with them to do this. In fact, that would be stressful for them. That would inhibit their healing process. So there really is no one right way to do this for each person. If you are nervous about it, then I suggest you seek out a practitioner who can walk you through this process and be there right next to you to make sure it's okay. I recommend doing it anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. You can't really overdose on it, but there's also, you don't need to do it every single day. You might not even need to do it every single week. I also encourage you doing it in a way where you're not, again, just checking it off. Like, oh, I brushed my teeth, great. It shouldn't be a practice that you do mindlessly, but it really should be a practice that you are mindful of and present to. So you want to find a space that's quiet. You want to find a space that's like your own. You want to feel safe. Maybe you'll feel uncomfortable tremoring with other people around. So you want to take that into account. The other thing I will say is that a lot of people don't tremor right away. And they're like, what's wrong with me? I'm not tremoring. It's not happening. It doesn't happen so quickly for everybody. You really have to learn to let go of control. And you have to bring your body into a state of involuntary tremor by fatiguing your muscles a lot. So it might not be that you're not giving up control. It might just be your technique. So don't judge it based on your first date with it, right? Engage in this practice multiple times before you decide that it's, I can't tremor, it's not happening. Some people tremor immediately, some people later, after weeks trying. And some people feel elated after, and some people feel deeply sad, and some people feel grief, and some people feel angry, and some people feel nauseous. There's no right way to feel after you've done this practice. You just want to give yourself space to have your feelings, and you want to not brush them under the rug. So whatever it is that you're feeling, feel them. Acknowledge that you're nauseous. Acknowledge that whatever it brought up for you. And always, always rest after the practice for a good 5 minutes. So I'm going to walk you through the practice kind of quickly and give you my top tips and let you try it on your own. So this is one, there are many ways to do tremor. This is one of the ways that I like the most because you can just lie on your back. Remember I said that the tremors are involuntary and you induce them by getting your muscles into a state of fatigue. I will say that one of the immediate reactions for many people is that they do enter a parasympathetic nervous system state. So being stressed out and reactive is a state of very high sympathetic nervous system. But when you do this practice, for most people, it drops you into a parasympathetic state. Again, that might not be your case. It might not bring you into the rest and digest space right away, but it doesn't mean it's not working for you. Remember, if it's your first date with this, you got to give it a good few weeks of regular practice to actually judge the effects. Because at first your brain and body are just like, what is going on here? Which kind of can overshadow other effects. Once you get used to it, then those other effects start to come into play. So to bring your muscles into fatigue, you bring the soles of your feet together and you just start to open and close your knees a few times. Now, I am starting with a bigger range of motion, but what I'm not doing is letting my legs flop to gravity. So I'm not just, it's not quick, and it's not letting them flop. Although you can, like if you really want to like activate your muscles quickly, you can go really kind of quick. But again, you're not flopping to gravity, you're in control. Okay, so I like to do it slower, and I just start by kind of assuming a bigger range. But then because you want your muscles to fatigue, if you go to your end range open or your end range closed, your muscles don't fatigue because you take your foot off the gas pedal, so to speak. So in order to keep your foot pressing on the gas pedal the whole time, you've got to stay in the mid-range. And I like to just start by imagining I'm in a jar of maple syrup and I have a lot of resistance to the movement. So again, it's not this quick flapping, flopping movement, but I'm almost thinking about squeezing my legs into a ball. So if I were to take one of my balls or my blocks and kind of squeeze my legs here, it would, like even now my shaking just started, just the thought of squeezing the ball. So I shake pretty quickly because I do this practice a lot. So as you can see, I'm starting to move into it. Because I'm teaching this video, I'm not going to bring my body into like a full tremor. It would be really inappropriate because I'm talking at the same time. I'm not present in my body. I don't want to do that. But again, I come up here and I think I'm squeezing a ball and I'm already tremoring. This is not me trying to do it. My calves are shaking, my glutes. And then if I can kind of just slow it down by opening my legs, it'll stop. So I go up and down slowly. At the top, I think about I'm closing. And then I start to really try to fatigue. So again, to fatigue, I'm going to maybe stay in the range where my foot is on the gas pedal, and I'm going to go from there up a little bit, feel like I'm squeezing a ball, and then slowly go down. But if I'm gripping my muscles too much, I won't tremor. So that's the other thing. If you're consciously trying to engage your muscle like it's a bicep, right? Like if you're consciously holding on tight, they're not necessarily going to get to a fatigued state. They're just going to get tense and tight. You might end up tremoring, but try not to grip. And then you can, after I've done about 10 of the kind of mid-range, I'll actually let my legs open for a beat and then close and then open for a beat. And again, I'm just giving different impulses to the muscles to work and to confuse my muscles. And then suddenly it just starts, right? I just feel the tremor building and it just starts to go through my body. And sometimes like just now it started and now suddenly it stopped, right? I don't have control over it. It just, my body stopped tremoring just now. I could induce it if I wanted to for the video, but I really, I don't want to tremor too much right now, like I said before. But so this is all you're doing. You're basically opening and closing slowly, sometimes quicker. Play around with it. See what fatigues your muscles. I know some people who really get fatigued holding kind of at the top like this, right? The muscles start to really fatigue up here. Some people, their fatigue space is here. Once you start tremoring, you don't want to try to control it. You just let go. And then when you've had enough and you're like, oh, this is super intense, I need to stop, you just let go and you relax. You just let it go. And then always, always, always rest. This tremoring has a huge effect on your psoas muscle. So the fact that our knees are bent and moving here, like the psoas is working. See, now I'm going into the tremor pretty quickly because I just did it. But the psoas is working really hard here. So, which is great. We want to activate it. We want to activate it, stress it, and release it. And then we rest. And I always recommend people to set a timer for rest so that your mind doesn't have to think about it. Just like have a timer, 5 minutes minimum, and just close your eyes and be in the after effect. Like I can feel already, because I was starting to tremor, jumping up and now chatting away here is a lot for my nervous system. I'm going to have to turn this video off in a minute and really give myself time to integrate. So the integration piece is so important. The other way that I will often tremor, this is very personal again, is, and I suggest this sometimes for people who are like, I really want to feel that. I like it lying down. I recommend it lying down. But for people who are really, really struggling and they don't know what it feels like to have that loss of control, it can be really nice to do it standing. And you can get a chair. You can use a chair or a wall or nothing. And you just bring your leg you elevate your heel and you just hold here for a while. Because I was tremoring before, it starts on me pretty quickly. As you can see, I'm tremoring. I'm not trying to do this. But you basically just hold your heel up. If you hold it too high up here, again, you've blown past, you're no longer with your foot on the gas, but you're not really working the muscles. So you kind of find that midpoint where your heel is hovering off the floor. The muscles are going to fatigue. My muscles are fatigued from the work I just did, and you start tremoring. What I like about this one is it just, again, gives you the feeling of being out, like letting your body involuntarily tremor, something that a lot of people struggle to move into because we are so used to controlling our bodies. We're so used to doing everything voluntarily, using our hands, using our legs. We're so used to just using our bodies in this very voluntary way that surrendering to the involuntary is so challenging. Be patient with your process. Do your integration after. Seek out help if you feel like this is a practice that you actually would do better being guided through. And don't judge on the first date. You've got to have multiple dates with this practice, like to really judge. And again, your first date with it might blow you away, but just keep coming back and be consistent with it. So I hope this has helped, and good luck with your tremor practice.